So I think what we're seeing with Open Gateway, work being done with Kamara, really is this idea of how do you take it from single operator, engaging single operator, to engaging the universe of operators. So I think from the perspective of the head of GSMA's research and consulting business, when I think about what developers should be paying attention to, a couple of big changes. I think one of them we all know, artificial intelligence, right? We've seen, and I think here at Shift, you've seen a lot of great discussions of how artificial intelligence can change the way developers do work, how they can take advantage of it. I think that's great. I think from my perspective though, as I look at and as I work with telecoms operators, there's two big important things. One, we look at the new capabilities with 5G going forward, 5G advanced, right? And there's been a lot of focus in the industry about how those technologies can benefit from AI. But I think what we're going to see, and this is really important for developers, is how those technologies can support new artificial intelligence applications and open up all sorts of great opportunities for developers, right? Taking advantage of not just the bandwidth, but the latency benefits, the uplink, and I think we know, right? They're gonna help with that. How you take advantage of that, I think, is the second thing I would think developers should be paying attention to, and you've seen some of that here at Shift. It is the use of network APIs. And the GSMA has been working on its Open Gateway initiative, which has really been about making those network APIs accessible to a broad set of developers across the globe. And when I talk about network APIs, I'm talking about the ability to easily tap into network capabilities, right? How do you leverage those mobile networks to find out about someone's location, someone's identity, to deliver quality on demand, taking advantage of those things to ultimately accomplish an end goal? Because one of the things that, and you've seen this here and in my conversations with developers, you hear it over and over again. The technical stuff is cool, right? And they love that, right? But they ultimately want to accomplish something. They want to deliver some sort of outcome. And if you can tap into those network capabilities to do that, then that's something that developers really should be able to understand. But it's difficult, right? When you're one operator and you're saying, hey, work with us, the value proposition for a developer, it's difficult, right? Oh, wonderful, you might have 100 million customers, but that's still one part of the market. And of course, if I want to develop something, I think you saw a number of great sessions here yesterday about developers thinking about how do they move beyond their own market, right? How do you develop throughout Europe? How do you go from Europe to the US? How do you go global? Well, again, working with one operator only gets you so far. So I think what we're seeing with Open Gateway, work being done with Kamara, really is this idea of how do you take it from single operator, engaging single operator, to engaging the universe of operators, right? Engaging the operator ecosystem. I think that's the real change there in terms of how telcos, developers engage. And then of course, the question is, well, who makes that happen, right? Who's the one place you go to? That could be Infobip, right? It could be other aggregators. When we think about responsible AI, this is something that the GSMA has been looking at for a number of years. So you go back even a few years ago, and one of the teams, one of my colleagues and their team at GSMA, put together an AI ethics playbook, right? And it was exactly for the reason you're talking about, because as we moved into AI, there's so many unknowns, right? So many questions of how do I do this? How do I do this right? Telcos, I think, in so many ways are talked to us. There's a huge opportunity you have because you have so much data, right? You have so many touch points on that customer, but well, what's the right way to deal with that data? How do I engage with the customer? Those are real questions, but there's still so many questions. And one of the things that I think we see with telcos, and you hear this a lot, they move slow. You guys know this, you work with operators around the world. They aren't the most agile. But in part, that's because there's so much resting on what they do. If they get it wrong, there's so much risk, right? There's risk to their customers, to their brand, to regulation. And so they have a lot of these questions of, well, what can I do? What should I do? And something like ethics, right? Responsible AI, because it impacts their brand, their relationship with their customers, and it's just the right thing to do, can't be ignored. Ultimately, when we think about how we are going to roll out new communication services, what we can see from standards, what we can see from the telcos, we can see from the infrastructure players, they can roll out new network technologies. Again, 5G, going to 5G advanced, rolling out new capabilities on top of that. But taking advantage of that, that's going to rest upon developers. Yes, there's some things that we can come together as an industry to support, things like RCS. Infobip is taking advantage of that. I know the success there has been great for Infobip. But beyond that, it's the question of, well, how do you develop on top of that? What cool things can you do? That's where developers come in.